Hi everyone, welcome to our Laravel REST API Development tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll create all of the authentication APIs. In the last tutorial, we have made our login APIs, and today we will create our register, getting profile, and logout APIs. And also, we'll use auth repository and some other things. So let's dive into this. Before going to this, in this tutorial we don't use Swagger. For this tutorial we will implement all of the authentication APIs in Swagger in the next part. In our previous tutorial we have seen we can give here a authentication token, like if we give this token here and then we can get the data, right? Like if we send and we can get the data. But assume if we create as many as requests, and so we can't actually all the time can copy this token. Okay, so what we can do, we can create an environment here. I'm using a Postman app actually, so app is better, so I'm using this. And in here we can create environment. If you click on this environment block, and you can create and add an environment, so then you will see a screen like this. Let's create an environment for our app, like Laravel REST API. So Laravel REST API env. Okay, so let's create like this, and here we'll use like access token equal to, so we'll set this access token value by getting from this, because we don't want to log in every time, right? So just copy this token here from here and just then paste it the initial value. Right click and it will be automatically pasted. So save it. So we have saved an environment Laravel REST API env and added only access token, no problem. Okay, then go to here and you'll see no environment. Okay, so then click on this Laravel REST API env. You can actually add multiple environment. That sounds great. Now you don't need to write this kind of big token anytime. Now you can look, if you press double curly braces and like write access token, you can get this token. That's awesome. And just save it and run it. Wow, perfect. So you have got the data and you don't need to write the token anytime. And this is useful if you use Postman. So I think this will help many people's. And whenever something change, we will just change this, go to this environment and just edit that. No, nothing else. Don't need to change everywhere that it's not necessary. Okay, so that's it. Next, so if we go to our code, so in our previous episode we have added this login and it's in controller. We have done all of the parts in the controller, but it's not good. It's not a good programming. So we'll abstract this in here, like this product repository. Control C and paste it. So and it would be like auth repository. We'll add our authentication stuff here. So let's create it auth repository. And for auth, there is no actually CRUD interface. It's not necessary, but there can be some other interfaces like auth interface or login interface or some kind of that. So as this auth repository will not repeat it to somewhere, so we don't create interface for this now. So just use this login, and let's just create first the methods. Just create method and add it. By default it's void. Then we'll add one by one what needs. Okay, so login, and then okay, so we don't need get by ID. So this is the one is login. So we need to pass the array, the data by which user will logged in. Okay, no problem. Just for now we don't need this. So let's abstract things from here to there. Okay, so in auth repository, let's just add this auth repository first in login controller, like in the construct as we have done. It's also in product controller. Just copy this and paste it in here. And one thing, as we are using PHP 8, so we don't need to write this public product repository. It's not necessary actually. We can actually do this kind of injecting from now here. Like we can write private and auth repository. import it, it will be imported here, and like name it like auth. I think it's pretty simpler. So okay, so this auth, perfect. So auth repository auth, and perfect. So and now look, we will abstract one of the things from here to that part. Okay, so so it's so by this method we have checked if the request is a valid email. So if the user is valid, so just copy this, and in the auth repository let's create a method is user exist by email. So and we'll just return that. Okay, so if is user get, actually it's like get user by email, right? It's actually like that. And what we have passed here, we'll pass the string email, right? And definitely, so not needs to be like that, it would be email, and also import it here. Perfect. And no need to CRUD interface, no need of this paginator. Okay, perfect. So and also it's actually it could be like nullable or null or like user. Okay, so that's it. So get user by email. And so now if we go to login controller, instead of this what we can do, we don't need to write any database related things in this controller. Okay, so like this auth, and then get user by email, and we need to pass the request of email, right? Perfect. And one thing, and for request validate, we need to do the validation, right? So let's make the validation here. Like we'll create a request for this login handler. So PHP artisan make request, it's like login request. Okay, so created that login request, and look, and there's a new folder request. Perfect. So for the by default it's authorization true, no problem. And what it needs, email is definitely required, and also email, and max, like actually max is not necessary, but for now we can give 100, no problem. And password, and also this password, and password required, and for password we can set mean 6 or 8 depending on our condition. So for now we are setting this 6. Okay, so this is for login request. Copy this, and just instead of request, let's paste it here. And now we have the request now, so we don't get actually a fake user here or fake data here. If data comes here, then definitely it must have a valid email, right? As it must have to be past this, right? If it's past this, then definitely it must have to be required and definitely valid email. So we don't have to check all those stuff in our auth repository or anywhere. It's not necessary, right? And one thing, and I think it's not a good practice to write this kind of logic here. For what we'll do, we'll just take all of this from here. Actually I'm just copying this for now, write this, and then go to the auth repository, and then create a login method, and we have passed the data here, no problem. Okay, so we have passed the data, that's good. In the data we have the email, right? Where is that? And actually we don't need to write this auth now, this get user email, and in the data we'll definitely pass the email, right? Like data of email. Okay, so it would be here, data of email. So we can get the user like this. And if no user passed, then we don't actually send response error from here, we'll send an exception either, throw new exception. Actually it's definitely an advanced tutorial if you were looking for a very beginner tutorial, and it's not like that, I think. So sorry, user does not exist, and definitely if this user does not exist, so we have to send 404 error, right? So and also we just import it. Okay, we'll pass this. And also hash check, password, this kind of stuff. We have to process this, right? And that's it. Okay, so now what we'll do, we'll actually check this password. Okay, so definitely what we'll do, we'll definitely create a method, because our every method will do actually one task, right? We'll follow actually solid for method actually. So right, like for check password, so match is actually check password doesn't actually mean check the password. It doesn't mean the whole, like is valid password. That's perfect. And now what we'll do, this part will be handled by here, return this. Okay, so and definitely will not pass these request of password, user of password. We don't pass actually this. We will pass actually the user object, user and the array data, right? So we don't have to think anything about that. So let's create it, hash facade hash. Okay, and instead of request password, user password is already okay, and instead of request password we'll use data of password, and that's actually the array. Okay, so is valid password. So now copy this. So and don't need this comment, because this method is actually telling what's the code will do, right? So what we'll do now, this is valid password, then it should be like first parameter is user, so it's already suggesting user, and second parameter is data, then it's data. Perfect. So if is valid password, and definitely it's boolean, right? So it's bool. Okay, and if it must have to be bool, right? So we don't have to do any tension for that. So wow, perfect. So user create token, auth token. So and this is actually a token, so we need to write a method for this, like actually as we'll follow like first method, and we'll use other methods, dependent method at the bottom. So I'll use this pattern, and token create. Okay, so for this we'll just abstract cut this, Control X, and then just create a method like func create token. Actually we'll create auth token. Okay, so return, and we'll pass the user and user. Okay, we'll pass this auth token, return auth token. Okay, so it must have to be returned that. Okay, and if we just hover over this create token, its return type is like that, Laravel / personal access token result. So just use it here. So and I don't like this kind of long thing, and it's better like importing, so it's better here. Okay, so token created. So what would be the token created? It would be this, and create auth token. Perfect. And pass the user. Definitely token would be for user, and this is valid password. So what's the problem on it? So go over this. It's bool, unexpected is valid password. Let's see if any issue. No problem. Okay, so we have abstracted all of our methods, and it's like a real solid. And now let's just abstract this kind of data. Actually, what we would do, so instead of this, we don't actually handle this send data from login method. So just copy this and create a method. So just create it like auth data. Actually, and as we're sending the data, and definitely we'll write get auth data, right? So it will get actually an authenticated data, and what we will pass actually maybe the user, right? So user, and would be user. Okay, that's perfect. And then just return this, right? Return this array, and definitely import this carbon and other things maybe, and also we need to pass the token created. Okay, you need to pass the token. So let's pass it like token, and it's not like token, actually it's token instance, so it would be token instance. It's for better, so it would be token instance, token instance, and token instance. Perfect. And also the token instance is actually personal access token result, right? So we'll get all data from here, and that's it. Perfect. Let's just, for this data we'll actually don't use this type of return. We'll just return this data like this, return this get out data, and what will pass? Will pass user and will pass token created. Actually let's name it like token instance, so it's far better than previous one. So it's perfect. So it doesn't return actually void, it either throws an exception or it returns a data like this. Or just let's just paste it here, and for here just return an empty array. Okay, so return an empty array. Actually it's not possible. Is valid password, is if it's valid password then it's like that. Okay, but we should actually, what we should do, we should do like this. If this is valid password, if this is not a valid password, then we should throw an exception. We should throw an exception like password doesn't match. Sorry, password doesn't match. So it's not 404, it's kind of 401, kind of like that. And it's a perfect. And so, and it's already checked if it's not valid password, so it's not invalid password like that, so we don't need to check now this, because it's already validated password, right? It must have to be a valid password. So that's perfect. And for the token instance we can use this in here, but for keeping our code consistent, simpler, we'll just don't write this. And also it's not a void now, it's actually an array right now. So it's perfect. So right, look, our methods, it's one line method, every method is almost one line. So this is actually bigger. It's not a matter because it's not so big. Okay, so it's perfect. And let's go to login controller. And for the login, so we don't have to handle all of the stuffs. What we'll pass actually, we'll pass the response actually, otherwise other things not so much important. So just this login, and in the login what will pass, will pass the request of all, right? So request of all, we'll pass the all of the data as array. Okay, so let's just make it in try again, so that we can handle all of the exceptions without any issue. So in here just let's paste it here, and instead of throwable let's make it exception, and then exception. Okay, so this login. Okay, so request all, what's this? So in the login what it's expecting, so this auth and then login. So if we go to this auth login, it's actually expecting an array, so it's request all, it's also an array, so it would not a problem. Perfect. So we don't need like this. So what we need, if there is any exception, we will write like this: return response error, empty data, and exception message, exception of message. So now perfect. And we don't, well, if there is if everything is perfect, so we don't need to check anything here. So now we will just return this response and the data. So let's pass is in a data. We can also copy this in here and send it, but I don't suggest like these kind of things into line. It doesn't matter, there is a very small line, it's almost 5 lines or 6 lines, it doesn't matter. Exception get message. And so let's try again if our authentication works, and we can also remove these unnecessary things from here. Also we don't use user in here. Okay, so let's test one more time if our login works as it is. So if we click on send, let's see if it goes perfectly and gives us a proper access token, and the data as it was. Perfectly done, perfect. But if we don't pass the email, let's see what happens. So we don't pass the email right now, and now look what's the problem. And it's actually sending a, if we just make the preview, we will get actually a Laravel page. Okay, but it's not good. We don't want this. We want a JSON response, right? So if someone doesn't give password, we want actually a JSON response. So we have to modify that thing. So if we just go to this form request and let's see what it actually does to the system. So if we go to the eliminate foundation and then HTTP and then this form request, actually this our server system is actually a API system. So just go to form request and go to this HTTP and click on this form request, and let's see what it actually does to the system. So if we go to that, create default validation data, actually handle a failed validation attempt. So this is these things actually done by these. So let's just copy this for now and paste it in here, and also definitely as we're extending this, so we can actually use this method here, no problem. But let's add this validator. It would be contract validations, import it here, and also this exception, validation exception, it is from here. Perfect. And then look, it's doing things with error bag, redirect to, that's it. It's actually working with the blade file, but we don't want actually the blade file, right? So what we want that our system will respond like this login controller response, right? Response like this, response success, response error, something like that. And also with this response rate. So let's just copy this response rate and paste it in here and definitely import it. And for the response rate, let's just, instead of this kind of response, let's just pass our response, what we actually want. And how actually this kind of validator exceptions get errors, actually it's simple. Actually it's get errors like here, errors. So we can get errors in this errors method. So I think this is actually enough. This is the main error, so we don't need to write all of those things. What we can write, and definitely it needs to throw exception. So throw, just pass throw new, and we send HTTP response exception. Okay, so we'll pass this, and what we would do this response error, we would use our this response rate and pass that new validation errors, and also we can use this in a method. So I think it's now perfect. So let's see. So we don't put semicolon here. Perfect. So hope so it would work with our expected response right now. So let's see. So if we just click send here, and now wow, it's perfect. It's something wrong and the email field is required. Awesome, perfect. So we have got a JSON response, and that's actually what we want. So, but look, in every request, if we do this kind of stuff like this, copy these things everywhere, it's not a good practice, right? So what we would do, we would actually create our extended form request, like let's just copy this and paste it here and name it like API form request. Okay, so API form request. Okay, perfect. And so just name it API form request and remove these kind of things. We don't need these things here, right? So no, don't need rules, just remove this. Perfect. And what else? So API form request extends form request. So it is as it is, but in the login request we don't use now form request anymore. We use API form request, which is an abstraction. Perfect. Now we don't need this method here, because this method is already added this API form request, right? We don't need this response rate. We don't need this kind of anything. Oh, sorry, we actually need this, but as it's in the same folder, same namespace, so it doesn't need to be important. So I think it's perfect. Let's just, and for one thing, we can also just copy this method to from here to there, but I don't want things like that. So let's just see if our system works as it is, and if we just don't give like give a 4-digit password, and let's see, now there will be 2 errors, right? Email and password must be. So we have added a simple, and if we give everything's perfect, let's see if it works as it is. Perfect, logged in successfully, get the data, get everything. It's super exciting. So I think this tutorial is really helpful for mid to advanced level programmers who actually want to work with APIs. It will help them a lot because I have used many more important concepts of programming, like use almost everything like a solid pattern, single everything's do actually one thing. It's single responsibility principle. I had planned to add all the register, profile, and logout API in this episode, but sorry for that. And in the next episode, we will finish our registration and the getting profile and the logout. Actually, those will be the simple because we don't need to do these kind of steps on this tutorial. So wait for this tutorial. Hope see you soon, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you face any problem, please comment below. Thank you so much. Bye bye.